Good evening. Magic of the FA Cup and all that. Well, not great when you're on the receiving end. It's a Burkout Wonderland radio show, and I'll be your host, Josh, this evening. And I will be joined by two bearded wonders to make a threesome of beards. First, start with the man on the other side of the Atlantic, our NFL fan now, I think, for the rest of the season. Shredder, how's it going?
Um, what a terrible, terrible Sunday morning for me. But my Panthers have a playoff game today against Mr. Welsh's Saints, and so the day can get better. But yeah, just ready to get this over with.
Yeah, I think spoiler alert for who's also with us. But John, how's it going? Any shred of positivity that we can get from this evening?
I mean, if you've gone past the point of caring, it was quite funny. I laughed a lot during the game, which I'm sure is probably the wrong reaction to have. I'm so fed up with being annoyed. I just think it's better to just try and laugh at our comical defending at times. It's that annoying thing of, for the neutral, I bet that was a great game. Like today, I wish I wasn't an Arsenal fan because I would have loved watching that game because it is proper FA Cup game, loads of drama and stuff in it. But having to be a fan of one of the teams and the team that lost didn't make it so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the lineups. A hoi polloi of players that, look like the bottom of the barrel, really. A heavy rotation with Chelsea coming up. Jace, how did you see the lineups here? Were there anything that you kind of expected or didn't expect?
Yeah, I did expect a lineup just like this, just like Wenger's gone with the League Cup matches as well as the Europa League matches. I expected it today, and with a lot like before with my expectations with these matches, like I've sort of said here earlier on in the year was, it's with some of these young players, there's going to be growing pains, and no match is, I think, ever going to be like as free flowing and beautiful as we probably would expect with maybe some of our more experienced players in it. And these players probably don't get a ton of time to train together in this system. They're probably doing more some sort of small-sided games, just a handful of them at a time, or maybe a run out every now and then with some of the first team players. So I don't expect a whole lot of cohesion coming into these games, and I think we saw that today. And I think my biggest complaint this whole time has been the lack of experience that we can bring in off the bench for games like this, for situations like today. It would have been nice to see some of our one or two of our first team players at least make the trip with us to be able to bring on some calmer heads later in the match that could add something to us. But going into the match, it was what I sort of expected from the lineup. A lot of youth. You see some players that are needing some show time since it's January now to come in and sort of prove what they can do. And going into the match, you'd hope that they would have. But no, everything that I expected sort of today from the lineup. Like I said, just disappointed that we don't maybe bring in a player with some more experience on the bench. And I think definitely probably the injury to Giroud was one reason why we didn't have that. You probably would have seen him come in. But, just expected. And sometimes the youth can play in very youthful ways. I think we saw that today.
Yeah, John, we actually saw a return to 4-3-3, I think. I think the graphics said otherwise from it. Not that made a difference in the end, but I know we've been crying out for it. But interesting to see that we've dropped Iwobi into central midfield. He was alongside Willock and El Neni. I know with what's happened with the result, we can't really find much positive with that midfield. But overall, what did you think of the lineup?
I wasn't overly concerned with the lineup. I was more like Jace was saying, that it was the bench that worried me. The fact that we didn't have anything off it in case something went wrong. Going into the game, I wasn't overly worried, but it is FA Cup. It's an away game to a championship side. Something, obviously, today obviously didn't go right, but there's always a chance of a mistake. So you want at least one player with something to offer off the bench. And relying on those young kids there, I think is really difficult. But I was excited to see Reece Nelson get a go actually playing on the wing. I was pleased that Danny Welbeck got to play through the middle, because I think all the times he's come on since his injury, he's been forced out wide, and it's only been for 10 minutes in games. He's not really had any impact. Iwobi, I think, plays better through the middle and in a free anyway. And it's always exciting to see Willock and Maitland-Niles as well play. So the lineup itself, I thought, yeah, okay, should be all right. A little bit worried if we need anything off the bench, but excited to see, in particular, the young players get a chance out there. But obviously didn't work out quite that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a shout out to everyone that's in the chat box, as always. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing, not necessarily what Arsenal are doing. We want to make a little bit of a separation between those two right now. Shout outs to people: Daniel Cronin, Marble Halls TV, Alfie Cox, who else we got in there? K-Man, 1867, Corey Austin. I think also one of the big misses on the bench perhaps might have been Arsene Wenger, but he was stuck up in the crowd. But let's actually go into the game. Interesting kind of tight opening moments, I think. Arsenal kind of didn't really get to test the goalkeeper. But then Forest started coming into their own. I think we saw Per and Holding getting absolutely terrorised by Ben Brereton, who anyone that has seen Forest this season will know that he is a very, very good player for them. But I even thought he was playing out of his skin. John, you had a lot to say on Brereton. Were you impressed with what you saw from him?
Yeah, I really was. I thought the start of the game, we were okay. We had some decent link-up play up top. Welbeck had a nice couple of little flicks and stuff, and Walcott looked to be making runs in behind very early on. And I thought, okay, this is good. But after 10 minutes, Forest kind of got over those early nerves, and they started to play some football. And Brereton really impressed me. I was surprised to find out he's only 18. I don't want to go over the top on the praise of him, because I think part of why he played so well was because we played so poorly as well. But yeah, he was just winning everything against Mertesacker. He's beating him in a race, which isn't a huge surprise, but he was holding the ball up against him really strong. He was bringing people into play. And Forest weren't just lumping it as well. They were playing the ball around and getting width and stuff. Skipping through our midfield. They had Clough on the left-hand side as well, who looked to be doing quite well. But yeah, Brereton in particular, I think he was probably one of their men of the match, definitely for them. But he really gave Rob Holding and Mertesacker a really tough game today. So I'd imagine Stoke fans will probably watch that and wonder why they let him go, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Jace, let's go on to, we can't put this off anymore. The first goal for Forest. Lehigh runs in front of Ospina. It's a free header from a free kick. One of the big questions I'll go with, was there any need for a wall from that angle? It's only a couple of yards more inside on the pitch than a corner.
I still probably maybe see one in the wall. But also from that angle, maybe why not put somebody at the near post? And maybe they can sort of at least flick that up out of a dangerous sort of area there. I think that was my biggest complaint. I haven't necessarily seen a lot of near post sort of defenders from positions like that in general. But definitely when you're taking a corner, you typically have somebody right there at the near post to sort of try to deflect, maybe guard your keeper a little bit more than we did. I also think it was a really tough position it was a really good ball in. Let's also give him credit. It was a great ball in, lots of pace and lots of whip on it. But at the same time, when you have a wall right there, why is our line so far back and allowing so much space? Obviously, again, we're not picking up runners, which is just a constant theme. But I definitely think, put maybe one in the wall right there just in case. But then also maybe put somebody at the near post, because really, I mean, the likelihood of somebody being called offside when you're that close, basically already inside your own 6-yard box, it's going to be pretty tough for a linesman to see. So put somebody at the near post, and maybe maybe we avoid what happened. But good on them to put a dangerous ball in, and bad on us to not track a runner again.
Yeah, I think I agree. John, would you agree? Do you think Ospina was a little bit at fault, not necessarily for how he reacted, but the fact that he was organising that defence for what eventually happened?
Yeah, it's a strange situation to have the free kick there because it was closer, but in terms of it's only like a yard or two out from the angle of what you would take a free kick. So I think why there isn't someone on the front post, I'm not really sure. No one screens the run as well of Lehigh. Like no one tracks him at all. We just walk. It's not even like he runs. You know, the first couple of steps are just walking, and no one is going with him at all. And I think the defense are so they just forgot that there's a wall there that's playing him onside. It's very, very, very odd. I, part of the blame's down to Ospina, but then also you've got to look at, there's a very senior pro in there, and Per Mertesacker, there's Debussy in there as well. How on earth none of them are saying put someone on the front post or whatever? You are allowed to overrule your goalkeeper and say, no, we need a man here. And none of them do that. And, Per's sort of praised for his organisation and stuff like that, and he doesn't do anything in that case. And it's a great ball in. Like the pace and the whip on it is fantastic, and it makes it very difficult for the goalkeeper. Even if Lehigh hadn't made the run across, I think Ospina's just going to have to sort of palm it out or palm it up and over. But just none of the centre backs going with the runner is absolutely criminal. It's honestly, it is really schoolboy. And there were times in this game where not just from that goal, but players were either standing still and just watching the ball, and just ball watching for minutes, or they were all running to the ball and completely losing their shape. And it's like when you watch sort of 4 or 5 year olds, they're all just grouped together and there's just a big ruck of them just chasing after the ball. Honestly, it was so embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, I think not a great goal to concede, but only a couple of minutes later, our two centre-backs did sort themselves out in the box, not necessarily our own one, to combine for the equaliser. Per Mertesacker with a half volley from a Theo Walcott free kick. Holding was in there with a header as well. Jace, I know you think Theo that was his only moment in the game. But what did you think about the goal? Was it something a good quick comeback that was required?
Yeah, it was good. It was a moment of resilience, actually, and really pleased with it. Actually, it was really good technique by Mertesacker to put it in sort of half sideways on the goal and flicked it in with his left foot on the outside of the boot, which is kind of a nice little touch for a big 6'7" defender to have that technique. But no, it was a really good response, and it was a good ball in by Theo, who I have definitely criticized in the past in his free kick taking ability. Happens when you can beat the first man off of a corner in the air. And then the ball can get into dangerous spots, and you never know what can happen from there. So, well taken. I just, like I mentioned to you, though, Josh, it took literally us stopping play and Theo having to set the ball in the perfect position for him to kick it at the perfect angle for him to make a contribution today. And yeah, he had some good movement and everything, but it was another forgettable Theo Walcott performance. Beyond the corner kick there. So, but no, it was what we needed at the time, and I love Per's reaction of just running straight back to his position, no celebration, knowing what this meant. And I thought at that moment, okay, well, it's going to be scrappy, but we could possibly, pull something out of it. So I was definitely pleased with the response, pleased with the way that the composure that he had in the box, which I think we've seen time and time again in those situations, especially in the FA Cup. But unfortunately, that seemed to be the one moment of resilience that was then quickly overcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I just want to say something just very quickly on that goal? The free kick itself, I don't actually think was a free kick. I know, like, I don't think there's any fans or any with a sensible head that are going to complain about referee decisions too much. Yet the penalty and the double kick thing, which obviously we'll get onto, that goal shouldn't have been allowed. But I don't, none of our fans are complaining about the fact that we got a free kick and scored from it.
Yeah.
I don't think was a free kick, to be honest. I don't think Nelson really got much contact there. Yes, he nutmegged the player, but I can't remember who it was. He was called for the foul. Just to try and keep things balanced a little bit. But it was like Jay said, it was a really good response, and it's something we've seen a little bit more. After that goal went in, I was kind of the opinion of, this is going to be one of those horrible games to watch for like your heart rate and everything, but maybe we'll end up like some sort of mad 4-3 win or something bizarre like that, kind of thing. just because the way we'd been defending throughout the game and how Forest had sort of approached it. I thought, okay, we can get goals. The one thing I did worry about was I thought we were only going to score from set pieces because I didn't have any faith in our strikers to actually score from open play.
Yeah, I think our build-up, well, when we come into the next couple of minutes that occurred between the goal for Notts Forest, we certainly had a problem. I think personally, I think we were missing a left-footed player because everything was going to everyone's right foot, and it was an issue that we saw throughout the game that there was no one that could really open the field out properly to start breaking through. But let's get to that goal. 44 minutes in, just before half-time. A cross comes in. Holding potentially caught in two minds of what he should do with it. But, you know, he gets to the edge of the area, heads it out to the edge of the area, and Lajic takes it on the chest. And what a hit, John. What an absolute hit from him.
I don't want to take away from the goal. There's issues defensively from us, obviously, for it. But
says John before he takes away from the goal.
But the goal itself is fantastic for a right back. Yeah. The technique, the curl on it, and he picks that spot. That's not a hit and hope. You see him; he lines that up beautifully. The issue I've got with the cross comes in, which you have to try and deal with in the first place, which Maitland-Niles doesn't. Again, it's a case of we're playing a guy out of position who I think has done quite well, but maybe you could have done a little bit better with that. The first header was run by Debussy, and then it falls to Rob Holding. The issue I've got with Holding's header is that it's straight out through the centre rather than to an angle. That's the first thing. And then the fact that no one, again, is going with Lehigh. The midfield's not there. He's come from the right side, so in theory it should be Nelson's responsibility. But if we are doing zonal, as I assume we do even in open play, as we do from set pieces, then he has to pass him across to perhaps it would be El Neni or Willock or someone like that. And no one closes him down. And he's got a lot of time on the ball, you know. So defensively, very, very poor from us. But the actual strike and the technique itself is fantastic. And it will probably be like one of the goals in the competition.
Can I also add why did Holding or why didn't Ospina come out? Holding headed it from inside the 6-yard box out. Why couldn't Ospina have come out and claimed that?
Yeah, that's strange as well because the first header is Debussy, which sort of goes a little bit back across goal, and then Holding heads it straight out. So yeah, I think Ospina can either come and claim it there, or he can give Holding a shout so that he can just sort of like let it roll off the back of his head gently, and he can just catch it, kind of thing.
Yeah, just something did. He just sort of sat there, and I think that goes back to everybody. You know, the biggest claim against Ospina is the fact that he's terrible with balls into the 6-yard box like that, and that's what frustrated me the most about that goal. It should have never gotten to the point where Lehigh was able to bring it down and somebody would need to close him down. Ospina easily could have come and claimed what turned out to be Rob Holding's header.
Yeah, it was just a catalogue of errors all round. Yeah, like for the Forest. Like if there's any Forest fans, I did see a couple pop up in the chat box. Don't take away from the goal. And the thing is as well, I don't think them being 2-1 up at half time was unfair.
No, not at all.
They had the better chances. Brereton got through a few times. Ospina actually, I think, ended up being one of our best players in the game because he made some really big saves. Yeah, it could have been more goals, weirdly. So I don't think 2-1 at half time was an unfair scoreline, but the fact that 2 goals come from very basic, simple errors, and again, not to take away from the quality of the goals or the finishes, but it's very schoolboy, simple stuff. It just keeps happening. And then you get into the situation of, then you start to worry again a bit. You're like, okay. And then you look at the bench again, you go, I really like Eddie Nketiah and he's a very exciting prospect, but I can't expect him to come on and rescue a game. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I would agree. So great points on that second goal. But came to half time. As you say, we both said, I think we agree that we did deserve to be 2-1 down at that point. We came out for the second half. I think I don't think Wenger put a rocket up the proverbial, so to speak, but we did look a little bit more exciting. But same old problems. Maitland-Niles cross, that was wasted as Theo and Welbeck both go to the near post and no one's in behind. Was that just an issue from the rest of our midfield not making those runs in? I think I'd go to Jace with that.
Yeah, I think that's probably where our inexperienced youth, just the decision making there for some of our players to not get in behind there. We did seem, I think, throughout the day, and not just in the second half. I think, especially towards the end of the first half, we just seemed really sloppy in possession. Just a lot of lazy balls, and when you start to give balls away like that, you have a tendency to maybe not go forward as much because you're going, all right, well, who's got the next misplaced pass? Maybe I need to stay a little deeper. So I think that just the inexperience in decision making with some of our players that we had in there. Obviously, Walcott is going to make runs in behind. That's how his whole entire game is built off of. But I think a lot of the other players, it was just a hesitation just due to their lack of experience. And hopefully they can learn from this. But on the day, I think it definitely cost us, and it definitely kept us from really, really challenging a Nottingham Forest defense that I think we probably had the talent to at least slip in, a few goals. But yeah, really, really, I think it goes back to, again, just the lack of experience in the side, especially Ainsley Maitland-Niles. You look at Willock in there as well, who was either invisible or giving the ball away, in my opinion. And then obviously Reece Nelson's a great player, but still has a lot to learn. And so I think it's really sort of a combination of that, the tentativeness of being sloppy and not knowing when the next turnover is going to be, combined with the inexperience of when to make those runs. I think that definitely cost us going forward.
Yeah, definitely. John, we'll move on to the 63rd minute where Rob Holding kind of got himself all in a tiz and stuck a leg out, in which one of the Forest players happily went over for a penalty. Just to double check, that one is a penalty, isn't it?
I mean, I always get asked this. I'm almost the one who says, yeah, they are penalties. Yeah, that is a penalty. I see what Holding's doing. It looks like he's going for the ball, but he's completely unaware of what's around him, and it's so dangerous to stick a leg out in the box like that. Yes, does the player run into it? Yeah, it's the direction he's going. Does he make full use of the contact? Yes, he does. Does he maybe over-exaggerate a bit? Yeah, probably. It's still a penalty. It's just a bad decision from Holding, and he just didn't have a very good game today. I don't want to. It's tough to single out individual players because the whole team was so poor, pretty much throughout. There was a few that I thought, did okay. So, Holding had a very bad day, but it's also fair to say he didn't get a lot of help from Mertesacker next to him, who also had a very poor game, and he didn't get any help from the midfielders in front of him, who really didn't give him much cover. But it's a stupid decision. It's one I expect that young centre-backs will make. It's going to happen. But in a game like that, just sometimes you just need a bit of a calmer head. And we've seen it from him. We've seen it from Chambers as well. Sometimes in the games, they can sort of mentally lose it a little bit. But I think that's just an age thing. So, it's disappointing, but it was coming. I kind of felt like even if they hadn't got a penalty, they probably would have scored anyway, because they were still making chances in the second half. It's not like we upped the tempo or anything or took more control in the game. Well, I think we ended up with like 70-odd% possession, but it didn't mean anything because we didn't do anything with it. We had, I think when we were 3-1 down, we'd had one shot on target the entire match, which was the goal we scored. That's ridiculous. It's so poor.
Yeah, definitely. Jace, we'll talk a little bit about Holding as well as the penalty. We saw this with Callum Chambers. He's got had an awful game. Do you think that he's mentally strong enough to come back from it? It's really what you'd say is the hallmark of a good defender, or good young player, is to come back from adversity.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was against last season that Holding just had an absolute stinker against and just completely Estes peas. That's shit his pants for those who don't speak in abbreviations. And and initials. And he came back from that. We've seen him be really good in matches. I mean, he was excellent against Chelsea last season in the FA Cup final. And defenders are going to have bad games. I personally think that our midfield. Oh, and we sort of just touched on it briefly at the opening. I don't know if we were in a 4 at the back or 3 at the back. Because I think the graphic
we were 4 at the back, definitely.
That's what I thought, because Debussy was the Arsenal graphic came out with 3, and then Debussy was literally right next to Walcott almost the entire match. And I thought, there's no way if he's supposed to be in a back 3, he was. So I when that happens, though, I think we saw our midfield really get pulled out of position a lot, and Willock and Elneny. I think Elneny was just probably one of our worst players positioning wise on the pitch today. Never shielding the ball, never in front of it, never in a tackle. And when you're putting defenders like Mertesacker, who, yes, he's lost a step, and that's saying a lot because he didn't really have any steps to lose. And then Holding, who can at times definitely be young and show his inexperience. And I think what happens then is you really start to put them in a hard position. We saw that a lot today. At the same time, Rob Holding's done nothing, I think, in his Arsenal career to make me think that he won't be able to come back and put in good performances. Players are going to have bad games. I think Maitland-Niles probably had one of his worst games for us today. I still think the youngsters had bright moments in the match, but they also gave a lot of balls away very easily. And I think guys like Holding and Maitland-Niles, sort of in particular, I think I do think they're tough enough. It's just making sure that we put them in the right position to succeed again in a match after this.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of young players that are going to come out of this with not particularly rosy futures, as well as the experienced ones. What can you say? It was a catalogue of errors throughout the whole team, and no one really seemed up for it. I'm sure we'll get to why I think that in the questions.
I think Mertesacker seemed up for it. He doesn't have the ability to carry a team on his back from his position, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I would say that for the game that's coming up as well, I think every player that's on that field knows they're not playing against Chelsea on Wednesday, and perhaps that plays into the mindset that, well, if we perform well here, we still won't get a game against Chelsea, so we'll miss out. We're playing, the game after that. But we shall move on from that. We saw Willock come off, who I thought at that point was, but again, don't want to signal out players, but he was having a woeful game. Just really couldn't get himself out into the game at all, personally. And we saw the saviour, Eddie Nketiah, come on, who had almost an instant action, John. He got our second shot on target. Decent play. What did you reckon to his
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen Nketiah the couple of times he's come on, and obviously the goal he got, and that was in the League Cup, wasn't it? But yeah, he came on, instant impact. He's in the box. I think he was playing from the left-hand side when he came on, and just good little turn and got his shot away quickly. And he looks an exciting player. He's got pace and everything. But again, you can't expect kids that young to come on and change the game when you're chasing it. And if your team's playing badly, as we were, the other team is in the ascendancy, they're the underdogs, they've got the grit and the whole crowd's behind them and everything, then you need more than just an exciting youngster to come on. You need a real talisman to draw the whole team up, because unless you are Alexis Sanchez or a Mesut Ozil, or you go further back, Thierry Henry type player, they're the kind of players who can do it single-handedly. Who can single-handedly win you a game and get you from behind. They can do that. A young kid's not going to do that. He might spark some inspiration, but it's not enough. You have to have the senior pros doing it. And the senior pros were some of the worst players on the pitch today, I think, other than probably Ospina. And Willock, who came off, all the other games I've seen him play, he looked quite tidy. And, it's in Europe, and okay, it wasn't the best opposition, but it's a different atmosphere playing in Europe, in a European competition, than it is in the FA Cup against the Championship side, who are going to be more physical. I don't think Forest were dirty or anything today at all. I thought all their tackles were fine. They were fair. Yes, they were physical, but I don't think in any way was it in a bad way. And he just got out-muscled in midfield. I also don't think he got much help either. Iwobi was at times coming back to help him out, and then other times he was 40 yards up the pitch, just standing there, not doing anything. El Neni looked like he was going to be the one covering defence, but then other times he was too high up the pitch, and Willock's caught there and doesn't know what to do, and he's getting no help from the senior pros around him. So it's there's players who I would dig out more just because of their age and their experience than say the young kids. Because I think Willock, Niles, and Nelson all made mistakes today, but I think it's too much to level at them that they're not good enough because it's too early in their career. Because those players of that age and that inexperience need assistance, and they weren't getting it today. The thing that I like most about Nketiah actually when he came on was the fact he instantly looked for the ball. Unlike a certain Theo Walcott who went missing. Steve put a great tweet out and put a message in our group, said, has Walcott gone to the Notts County ground and got mixed up, gone to the wrong club? Because he just disappeared for the entire game. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'd say with the on that as well with the young players, that I think it's really interesting that the opponents they came up to aren't the same that you'd see in the Europa League. They're kind of, I think the FA Cup certainly changes that, and that there's a mentality that they can basically beat anybody on their day, especially from lower league clubs, that this is their one chance. Whereas in the Europa League, there's a bit more sitting back, allowing us to really dictate play because we are the Arsenal. But I don't think there's any of that kind of pandering to us, which is really why these players...
Sorry, Josh. The other thing is that you get... maybe this shouldn't happen in football, but the game is refereed differently in the Premier League to it is in the Championship, and to it is in European competition, and to it is in European leagues, and it's a bit gentler in Europe. The pace of the game is different. The Championship, I don't watch it often, but when I do, it's very fast paced and it's quite frenetic, and sometimes a lot faster paced than the Premier League, and it's more physical than the Premier League is, and the skill level might not be the same as what you get in Europe and technique wise, but if to use the bad phrase, you play against men, if you know what I mean, to use sort of an old school phrase. So those younger guys who aren't physically built enough yet, Reece Nelson was very good at parts today, but other times he was very easily brushed off the ball. It's not his fault. That's just because he's young and he's got got time to develop and build his upper body strength and that kind of thing. So I think those were the positives you can draw from the game, that despite the fact we didn't play well, I thought Nelson was still very positive and still trying to make things happen. Willock did attempt to do things and try and take players on. It didn't come off for him today. And Maitland-Niles again looked every bit sort of a first-team player almost already, which is a ridiculous speed of sort of how quickly he's elevated himself into the team.
Yeah, definitely. So, we have Nketiah coming on. Welbeck in the 78th minute, for once, doesn't have a dodgy first touch. But talk about the goal, Jace. Talk us through it.
Yeah, see, I believe it was off just a sort of a sloppy sort of back pass or back pass, and into the box, or sort of a ball just swung in the box, and their keeper went down for it, and sort of bundled it, and it just sort of fell right to Welbeck, and he was able to slot home. I heard somebody say bundled it into the net. I would say he more trickled it into the net from his position there. And gave us maybe a little bit of hope when we really didn't deserve any. I know some of the replays were showing, though, that their keeper actually got a fingertip or two on it that actually deflected it in closer to the near post. I still think it was going to go in at the far post. Some people were saying that it should have been an own goal. I don't know if it was counted as an own goal or not. Either way, though, we were a bit fortunate and good on Danny Welbeck, at least, for being in the right position at the right time there and harassing the opposition keeper, because something like that, you never know what could happen when you put him under enough pressure. So it was good to see, but obviously too little, too late. But you got to keep sort of going like that at the end of matches and keep keep pushing them and putting them under pressure because especially teams like that may not have the technical ability that we do. When you do put them under pressure, they're going to panic a little bit, and good things can happen when lesser sides panic. And I'm sad we couldn't continue to put the pressure on them like he did there.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about pressure, after that went in, we seemed to get a bit of wind in our sails. 82nd minute, another ball comes in. Machien gets a push on Welbeck. John, as chief penalty decider, what about this one? Pen or not?
No, not for me. We talked about. I can't even remember if I was on the last show now. The last time we talked about it was the whole: is there contact? Is there not contact thing? It doesn't matter whether the contact thing isn't the issue. It's the amount of it, and is it enough to force a player over and that kind of thing. For me, it wasn't. And also, you can generally tell. I think when a penalty or a free kick is going to be given, it's from a player's reaction. If like they're really, going absolutely nuts about it, you can normally tell that the referee's got it wrong before you even see the replay.
And if they're wearing an Arsenal shirt, and the defender, it's a penalty.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with the fact we've had some maybe harsh decisions against us this season on penalty decisions and things like that, and certainly none, and a few that didn't go for us and plenty that gone against us. But no, I didn't think it was. It was nice that we got the goal and it was a bit of luck. And like Jay said, Welbeck hadn't had a great game, but he was in the right place. And the one thing you always give him is he always run and track and work hard. And he got himself a goal. But again, we start putting pressure on the team, and we didn't do enough to, see it through and maybe get an equaliser. It's always in tiny, short, little bursts, and just never quite enough. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think after that, Forest got the other end. Matthew Debuchy puts in a tackle. John Moss's cataract gets in the way, so he doesn't really see it and gives a penalty. John, are you going to agree with that? John Moss making because I think he gets the ball cleanly.
So this one, I think, I don't know what the ruling is anymore. So in the Premier League, normally, if you tackle from behind, they just give a free kick straight away nowadays. It's kind of at an angle a little bit. So he comes in, but he definitely does get the ball first and then takes the player. So if you're going by what the rules used to be, then it's fine. It's a good tackle. But the fact he slid in from behind and where John Moss is, when I saw it at full speed in play, I thought, oh no. I instantly thought penalty because it just slid in from behind. And the guy's gone down. You see the replay and it's like, yeah, it's a really, really good tackle. But you look where John Moss is in relation to play, his view on it, he's looking at it from behind, from a worse angle than the camera was. It's going to be given all day. It's disappointing because it's a really, really good tackle, but Debuchy should know better that you cannot slide in from behind in the box and expect to not give away a penalty. It's one of those things. He has to. It's harsh on him because he hasn't done anything wrong to the letter of the law, but it's one of those things where he has to try and get alongside Traore and just try and see him out if he can and stay on his feet. The moment you go to ground in the box, you're making it very difficult for the referee to not give a penalty. If he came in from the side properly or he's come from, face on, then maybe you get away with it. But coming in from behind, I don't think it is a pen. I'm not going to actually blame the ref and have a go at him. I don't think the referee gets one look at it in real time and from his angle. And so I don't think he's done that much wrong there. As for the actual penalty kick itself, then that's a little bit different.
Yeah. Before we go to the actual kick, Shredder, what did you reckon to the penalty decision in its first instance?
Penalty all damn day. And if you read the rules of the game, you can win the ball and still commit a foul, especially if you go through the back of a player to do it. Just like John said, you start to slide through the back of a player anywhere else on the pitch, and let's turn this around. If somebody had done the exact same tackle on Walcott in the box, we would be absolutely livid if we didn't get a penalty on that. Absolutely livid. It is 100% a foul, and if a foul is committed inside the penalty area, a penalty is given, and that's what it was. You cannot go to the back of a player to win the ball, and Debussy did that with the back of a leg. Yes, he won the ball cleanly. I'm never going to deny that. That's facts. I saw it with my own eyes. But just because you win the ball doesn't mean that there's not a penalty on it. So 100% penalty, in my opinion. And don't at me, bro, on that one. Because, yeah, I don't necessarily see what the controversy is on it. And that's my opinion. And people can tell me to go
swivel.
Do unsavory things to myself or whatever. But it's a penalty all day, and we can't be continuously putting ourselves in these positions. And people are saying, well, it shouldn't have been a penalty, and I can't believe that we've let the refs decide it again. No. The refs didn't decide this. The players on the pitch were so poor that at this point the game was gone anyway. And we had no fight at this point. We were just scrambling, and this is what happens when you put yourself in this kind of position: is you take it out of your own hands and you give it to the refs and you let them decide for you. And I think that's probably what we're just the most frustrated with, and we're taking it out on this. And penalty all day long, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's probably a good point to bring in the question we got from Carl. Why are we conceding so many penalties lately, Jace? We've got 4 in the last 5 games. Is it poor defending, poor officiating, mixture of all of them, or is it just bad luck?
It's a mixture of all of them. I mean, the handball that wasn't, we can't help that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know any team that doesn't really let anybody else into their box to allow penalties. So that's kind of unrealistic to expect of an Arsenal team who's notoriously poor at defending. It's a combination of all of them. There have been times when we've been screwed by the refs. There have been times today when we've put ourselves in poor positions and allowed the referees to dictate what's happened. And it's definitely a combination of everything. There's no one particular thing. And yeah, we've been hard done by refs in games. Yes, we've put ourselves in bad positions, and yes, we've played well and still put ourselves in bad positions in matches. It's a combination of all of it, and hopefully we can right the ship and start, I don't know, making better decisions. But it's tough to see where that's going to come from because the players are being told sort of the same thing week in and week out, and not a lot's changing. So we're gonna have to just sort of ride through the storm at the moment, whether the storm's created by ourselves or external forces.
Yeah, just on that with the defenders. Sorry, Josh. I think there's a part of mental fragility that Arsenal likes to talk about. Our great mental strength, but I think the team is mentally weak at times. Definitely. You see the moment we concede a goal, how sort of 5-10 minutes we are all over the place. We really are struggling to have any shape. I don't think we're well enough drilled off the ball. That doesn't help. And if you're not well drilled off the ball, you are going to be out of position, which means defenders, I've never played at the high level, but if you play any level of football and you're a centre-back, then you know where you want to be. You don't ever want to be running towards your own goal. You hate doing that. You hate a player running at you. That's terrifying. Anyone with any kind of pace. Anyone inside your box is awful. You just want to get them out there as quick as you can. But if your other centre-back partner's next to you, you know where he is. If your fullbacks are in there and if your midfield's in tight, you feel much safer and you're not as worried about the tackles or, what you're trying to do with the players on the ball if they're right up on you. Because you know where everyone is and you feel a lot more comfortable. The moment one person's out of position, you start to panic. And if any one player's out of position, it's bad enough. But it's not just that. It's not one player. It's so many different players out of position. And the way the club is going at the moment, I think that plays on players' minds. You're looking around for help. It's not there. We're playing a lot of young players. We're playing people out of position. They're going to make decisions that aren't correct. So I don't think it's just coaching. I do think that is a big part of it. It's coaching the team as a structure off the ball, the midfield not helping out, the fullbacks not tucking in, the wide players not coming back to cover their fullbacks. It's so many things, and all of them contribute to continuously making poor decisions, whether it be going to ground in the box to make a tackle, whether it going, like Rob Holding today, instead of hiding the ball out out at an angle instead of straight forwards, or a spinner coming to claim the ball, all those kind of things. You lose your confidence and you end up doing the wrong things. Yeah. So it's all of that, it's a simple thing. Like, as a centre-back, you kick the ball along sometimes just because you have to clear it. Well, I know we don't do it very often, but occasionally Chambers and Holding are the two that do it more often. We had Danny Welbeck up top today, couldn't hold the ball or couldn't stick. If you're a defender and sometimes you just want to relieve pressure and you just want to clear your lines a little bit, the moment you kick it, if you know it's coming straight back, it's exhausting, not just physically, mentally, because you've got to reset again and go again and try and get your shape back. And you saw with Forest today, I had the difference. If they cleared it, Berreton was invariably getting to the ball, holding it up, bringing a player into play, or winning a throw-in or something, and letting his team get up the pitch. And giving you just those 5-10 seconds, just giving that little breather and stuff. And all those things add up to making continuous mistakes in the box.
Yeah, I think that's why we kind of missed that from a striker with, Ollie Giroud being out as well, because that's what he does so wonderfully for us.
Yeah.
Back to the game. After we've missed the slip, haven't we?
Yeah, we haven't actually done the goal itself.
We should probably do that. So penalty taker steps up. Different. It wasn't Berreton this time. Steps up. I say step. Slips up. And personally, I think he only hits the ball once. I think he catches the back of his own heel. But John Moss runs over to his assistant, who's flagging away and saying, I think it's got double touch. Arsenal players adamant that with his slip, he's touched the ball twice. Did you think that it touched the ball twice, Jace? Or not?
It's tough. I even in slow motion, it looks like he's aiming for the corner that Ospina dives to, and it goes up the middle. But I couldn't see any concrete evidence of yes, it was touched twice, or no, it wasn't. I think it easily could have been the way his foot slipped. We've seen that happen against, I forgot who it was, at the end of last season or early this season where it happened with us. So yeah, it's just it's one of those things where then of course everybody's calling for VAR because everybody wants to get everything right, and it would definitely fix a lot of problems, I think. But it's tough, and I think John Moss probably said I don't have enough indisputable evidence to sort of overturn this, because it's really, really hard to see. Like I said, even in slow motion, it was tough to see. It does look like he's aiming for the corner, though, and it goes right down the middle, and sort of has an awkward spin on it that a normal where he was aiming wouldn't have had that sort of spin on it. So you can sort of, there's some anecdotal evidence, but nothing I think confirming that yes, it was a double hit. It looked like it to me, though, and I would probably lean that way, but I can't concretely say yes or no.
Cool. John, I think people will be screaming about VAR in this because, we haven't got it yet. And so it can always be that unknown saviour to come in and would have been given either way. But personally, I think the penalty wouldn't have been given based on VAR, so this would be a moot point. But, how many replays did we see? I don't know if you were watching the BT Sports stream, but we actually missed the next event because of it, which was 5 minutes later, because of all of this, them showing the replays constantly of this slip and did he or didn't he hit it. Do we want to put VAR to bed finally again?
Well, we're going to have it on Wednesday, aren't we? For the
no, tomorrow. Tomorrow for Brighton Palace.
Oh, Brighton Palace, okay. But we've got it in the Carabao Cup as well, haven't we? Our game against Chelsea, I think they're using it in that.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're using it in that, and for who's the other teams? City, Bristol City against Man City. Yeah, so I think we're going to have it in that. I don't think it solves everything. It's still. I think the rule on it is it's referee's discretion on whether he goes to VAR. So the referee can still choose not to go and use it. If the referee then chooses to use it, he can still make the same decision. So don't get me wrong, I do think. Some cases it will help. I think there'll be other times when people will go, well, he's gone to the VAR and he's still got it wrong, because it's human interpretation. It's like with the slip thing today. I think he double kicked it, but I'm not 100%. And I actually think one thing I'll give credit to John Moss for, I'm pretty sure the rule is, and this is the same for penalties, if you think it's a penalty, you have to be 100%. If there's any doubt, You can ask your linesman and whatever, but if you're not 100%, you're not supposed to give it. And it's the same as with the double kick. He clearly thought there might have been, but he wasn't sure. Goes to ask his linesman. Linesman doesn't know, so he has to give the penalty because he has to have 100% on his doubt for then it would then be an Arsenal free kick. I think is that the way it works.
It's either a retake or a free
retake.
kick.
Sorry, yeah, it's a retake or a free kick. Yeah, so I think that was the correct decision to make, but I'm not sure. VAR will make some difference in some games, then other games it won't. Some games the referee won't even look at the VAR. It is not gonna bring about perfect decisions in football. It never will. So it's one of those things. It'll be interesting to see, just because Arsenal-Chelsea games of the last couple of seasons have been quite heavy incidents-wise, especially in the box. So it'll be interesting to see if it is used and then if it really does make a difference. But it was kind of strange that, like, even after the game, there was people still talking about it, and I was like, that's not what the game. It's not really that important in the game at all. Yes, I know if they hadn't scored, then it's 3-2 instead of 4-2. But we didn't do anything, and it's not like we remotely played in any way to deserve to win the game or made that many chances. So it was kind of irrelevant to me. And I hope it doesn't become a talking point like today, later on tonight and tomorrow and stuff, because it kind of detracts from the point of how poorly we played in the game. Also, as a Forest fan, you're probably going to be annoyed that if anyone doesn't talk about the penalty, everyone will just be going, "Oh, Arsenal were rubbish," rather than Forest played really well, which they should get credit for, because I thought they played really well in the game and they definitely deserved the win. So, it doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's the long and short of it, is that at that point, perhaps we could have gone back up the other end and got something, but on the basis of the rest of the game, I don't think it was very likely. But we did see a red card for Forest. I didn't see the incident because BT Sport were too busy playing a million replays of a slip.
Yeah, I think he went through the back of Nketiah.
Yeah.
I think it was him anyway, and he got a second yellow. Yeah, I was completely confused but at that point I was like, what is happening? Because you've got the penalty given and everyone's discussing if it's a penalty, then the slip thing and he's talking to the linesman. They keep replaying that, and then it cuts back and it's, Forest have had a player sent off. I'm like, what is happening in this game?
I think he got a yellow.
Lost track.
I think he got a yellow for shouting at John Moss because of the fact that he then was discussing about it. So you got something for dissent and then went through the back of someone. So I think it was only 45 seconds that he had a yellow card for. Until he got his next one. There we go.
So I completely, just no idea what had happened in that point in the game. Just like 5 minutes of total madness. I was like, it's just a proper FA Cup game. Cool.
Yeah. I should say that Akpom did come on after the penalty as well. I think it was at that point that Steve Bold had decided the game wasn't going to happen. Because, to be honest, I spent half a season watching Chuba Akpom lollop his corpse around the south coast of England, and my God, was he awful. But at the 92nd minute, he did something, as his Chuba tries to lob the keeper. And yeah, that happened, didn't it, John and Jess?
Yeah, that was, I think the funniest thing about that was I was like, I think he's tried to do the right thing. He is a striker, so he's going to go for goal. That's fine. He's tried to lob the keeper. Didn't pull it off. The keeper got a hand to it. And what's more hilarious is as the ball trickles and just goes wide of the post, Theo Walcott comes in, doesn't anticipate anything, so he doesn't get there in enough time to tap it in. Then turns around and complains to Akpom that he didn't pass to Walcott. It was just sort of, oh, well, there's young Chuba Akpom who's never going to make it at Arsenal, sadly. I think that's pretty obvious to everyone. And then we've got the 28, 29-year-old guy who's been there for 10, 11 years, who's never fulfilled his potential, complaining that the young protege didn't pass him the ball. It honestly kind of summed up the game perfectly.
My goal bonus is bigger than your goal bonus. Pass it over and I'll give you a cut.
It kind of summed it up perfectly for me, and the game kind of fizzled out a little bit then. But I mean, fair play to Forest. They fully deserved it today. I thought they played really well. They knew at times they were going to not have the ball, and they defended really well. They sat back. They pressed at times as well and tried to win the ball high up the pitch and tried to. They did that, especially in the first half, trying to pressure Mertesacker. You could see that, and Rob Holding trying to win the ball high up there. And Brereton, really, really good performance from him today. The young kid. So I'd imagine there'll be some scouts sent down to Forest to start watching him play more games. And a few others as well. Clough as well on the wing, I thought was quite good. And Walker, who came on, Des Walker's son, who did look as quick as his dad, which was terrifying. So they've got a few good players, but for Arsenal, it was just shambles. The defence today, no real creativity, and like the only positive, like I said, I think was Reece Nelson. I thought was bright in parts. Always trying to do something. Maitland-Niles again was pretty good. Again, made a few mistakes defensively, but I'm not going to crucify him for that because playing out of position. And Willock attempted stuff today. Didn't come off for him. I thought he had it was a poor performance for him, but he was always trying at least. But I'd look at the senior pros as the ones who, if anyone wants to be hung out to dry, it'd be them and the manager, to be honest.
Cool. Jace, before we get down and dirty with the questions, do you want to have any final thoughts on that game as overall?
No, I'm just going to expunge it from my memory.
Excellent. So I think we'll start then first with Kelly Mayer's question that's pertinent to what you're trying to expunge. Have the pre-drink started for the game already?
No, I got roped into dry January with my girlfriend. So water. That's about it. Yeah, so I'm not even self-medicating after this atrocious loss and before the Panthers game. But there is a bottle of whiskey in the cabinet. It is tempting me. It is greatly tempting me.
I will say for Jace and any other Panthers fans that are watching, I know this isn't Arsenal related. I've watched the Saints twice this season, and it's 2 games they lost. So the third game we're going to watch this season is the playoffs tonight. So you've got a chance. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's say all of us can't be disappointed by Arsenal and our NFL teams this weekend, right? Seeing as mine got knocked out this morning and I had to stay up till 5 a.m. to see that happen. So I would like to say a big shout out to all foreign fans who watch Arsenal, especially at like 12 o'clock kickoffs for us that are then stupid o'clock for you, because I just wanted to give up at halftime, and I'm sure you probably did and want to turn the TV off if your time zone doesn't get to that. But yeah, this is just a complete hats off to all foreign fans for that as well. I think another question we shall go with from Jeffrey O'Hara has come to you, John. Actually, Jace, we can do it as well. Do we need to start playing our best possible 11 in the Europa League now?
Who's that to?
Jace, do you want to take that first?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. John?
I mean, yeah. I don't think it's Osterund, isn't it? The first game in the knockout stage. I don't think we need to play our very, very best 11. But yes, I do think that if players haven't left, like Alexis or Ozil or anyone like that, and I'm not saying they are going in January, but if they haven't gone, then yeah, I think there's an argument for some of them coming in, starting to bring more of the senior team into that squad and taking it more seriously, because our league form has been abysmal. Our Europa League performances have been good. Okay, arguably against very weak teams, fair enough, but you get that weird thing in teams where they all play well in one competition and not in the other. It doesn't make any sense. It's just the way football is. If we get a good thing going in the Europa League, then I think winning Europa League is I think it's a much better competition than people give it credit for. Once the knockout stage starts, I should caveat with that, because the group stage is terrible. I agree. The same as Champions League group stage is awful as well. It's so boring. But the knockout stage is good. There are very good teams in it. You will see some really good, exciting football. You also see some exciting players, and you see teams that we haven't played, frankly, either before or for a long time. New cities for the away fans to go to, and it's a way back into the Champions League, which at the moment the league doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I would do it. There's some big teams left in there. But yeah, I would take it seriously.
Cool. Would you take it seriously as well, Jace? I think we're all agreed on that, right?
No, you have to. It is right now looking like our best chance at Champions League football again, and it's I think we could put a good run in if we did put a good run in, and made it to the semifinal or especially the final. Really, I think that's it's really something to build off of and go into next year with. You'd think we should win it, but I just think with the form and how we're playing this year, that seems like a bit of a far reach. But hopefully we can at least get a run and maybe get our players, playing in good form consistently, and carry that from the Europa League into the league, and maybe not have to rely on Europa League to qualify for Champions League. That'd be the hope.
Yeah, I mean, any competition without Man City in is a little bit easier for us to actually progress in. So I would probably progress with that one. Just get a question from Jovi82. Fire this one over to you, John. There's a lot of Wenger out questions in here. Wenger mainly to blame for our defensive shambles, or should we look to replace Bold as well when Wenger is gone?
It's a big question. Whoever the new manager is, whenever that is, that happens, when they come in, I've got no idea when that'll be, whether that's this summer or the end of Arsenal's current contract, or maybe even longer. I don't know. It's still possible. It's up to that manager who he keeps as coaches, whether he wants to keep Steve Bold there because of his connection to the club and obviously knows the players there and the staff and sort of the training ground and everything. They might do that. I have no idea how much input Steve Bold has as a coach, is the honest answer. From what people have told me who are much more informed than I am, it is Arsene who does the coaching and everything else. He's very much always on the training ground. You see that in the pictures and everything. And we are a team that are coached to play a certain way with the ball, up to a certain point in the pitch, and then it's freestyle jazz, do what you want kind of thing. As for defensive stuff, I don't think we do enough. Does that mean Steve Bold is a bad coach? I don't know, because I don't know if he's being allowed to coach the defence or not. That's the issue. And I think the other thing as well is, even if he's being allowed to coach the defence, that's not enough to solve our problems, because it's an overall team shape that we have an issue with as well. Not just individual defenders and just a back four or a back three. But if your midfield aren't helping you, it doesn't matter how good your defence is. You cannot play, big, open, expansive football and just let your defence just stand there and get attacked so simply. So it's up to whoever the new manager is, when that'll happen. I've got no idea.
Yeah, so I agree. It's I think at the moment we've got more of a broken philosophy. I think we know what we want to do, but either the players can't implement it or the coaching staff can't implement it, and we're just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment. Jace, we'll come to you on a similar vein. Neil McComb Music, there was a question: if Arsene was sacked this evening, what would your reaction be? By evening, that could also be American evening. I don't know.
Yeah. Either one. So I've been on the Wenger needs to go brigade for quite some time now. It's still going to be sad when he leaves, because he's the man who we wouldn't have such high expectations if it wasn't for what he himself did. And so it's going to be bittersweet, but it will be a little bittersweet, because it'll be sad to see the man who will probably go down as the greatest or the second greatest manager in the history of our club to leave. But it'll also be sweet knowing that we can even, and I've, said this in the past as well. Wenger leaving is not an instant fix to anything. What it will do is it'll at least give us a new way to fail, which I would at least like to try to fail in a new way. Try something different. And that will be refreshing, is at least to have something different. And it'll be a breath of fresh air, I think, to not only the club itself, but also the fans, even those who do still hold Wenger in high esteem. And I hold him in high esteem. I don't think he's able to get the best out of the players, and I think sort of he's past his sort of sell-on date. So it'll be bittersweet if he were to leave, and even when he does leave, it'll still be bittersweet. But I do think that's best for us in the short term and the long term. Is for us to get somebody new in who can change things around and try to implement some new things with the players on the pitch and the way we go about our business, in the transfer windows. So it's, again, bittersweet if he were to leave tonight. it would probably be a little more sweet just coming off the bad taste of today's match. But in the long term, I think most Arsenal fans will look back and really, people are saying that Arsene Wenger's ruining his status as a club legend. He's not ruining it. You're looking at one single tree instead of the forest at the moment, and that tree just happens to be the one that's dead. So once we have some more perspective, I think Wenger will be a lot more loved by people than he is now. But yeah, no, bittersweet. Obviously, I think that's how most fans would feel.
Yeah, I think Loki73 has suggested, should we get in Mark Hughes as a manager and become the ultimate joke, but with a Welsh accent?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, Jace would like the Welsh accent bit. I think I'd rather give it to Davies, to be honest, than Mark Hughes at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll brush over Mark Hughes as a person, manager, arsehole.
I have a feeling if Welsh Justice was our manager, we'd see a lot more impact to injuries at training, though, for some reason.
I think a lot of COVID-related injuries with players walking into them.
The players would certainly come out with a different attitude at half-time as well if they hadn't been performing.
Oh dear. Right. Question for you, John. Actually, we'll go both of you for this. Benny Ogden. How many players from the team that played today will we see next season?
Oh wow. Right. Well, I suppose the easiest way to do it is who's going to leave. So,
should we split it into loans and who's going to permanently leave Arsenal?
I assume. So on my list, obviously Mertesacker will be retired, so he won't be there. Ospina, I think, will be gone. Debussy will be gone. Walcott will be gone. Akpom will be gone. And then, as for the rest, I would say then you've got looking at loans. So I could see Reece Nelson going out on loan. I could see Joe Willock going out on loan. Maybe that's it. Maybe Nketiah gets a loan deal as well. One of the interesting one for me actually would be Welbeck, because he's starting next season. He's only got a year left, I think, on his contract.
Yeah.
And whether they give him a new contract or not, because as much as I like Danny Welbeck's work ethic and his attitude and everything else, I think ability-wise, he's not really there on what we're looking for. He's like amazing athlete, and he's running and everything else, but technique and stuff like that, I'm not really sure it's there. So I could see him possibly going.
Yeah, I say he did have a superb start to the season, but
he did.
By injury, but I think he's one of those players, a bit like, I don't want to tar him with the Walcott brush, but who is very streaky in how they play. So he'll have a run. He'll get a really good run of 5 or 6 games strung together, and then it'll be curtailed for one reason or the other. And I think his injury and Alexis coming back has really hampered him this season.
I think the one thing with Welbeck is that you will still get a very good price for him because he's English, because he's young enough. He's a product of Man United. He did well when he was at Sunderland, I think, on loan from United. So there'll be plenty of clubs in the Premier League that will pay very good price. And you've seen like sort of the way fees are going, especially between Premier League clubs. You'll get plenty of money for him if you were to sell him. But yeah, it's quite a lot from that team. But it's not surprising, really. The thing that's more worrying is how many more from the first team might also be gone as well, and how much of a rebuild it possibly is. So,
yeah, Jace, same question over to you. Who's staying? Who's going? Does it depend on what competitions we're in next year? Do we hold on to more of the young guys like we did this season instead of sending them out on loan if we're in the Europa League?
It wouldn't surprise me if only 3 of these players that started today were gone. I think Walcott's gone. I think Debussy's gone. And then obviously Mertesacker's retiring, so he doesn't count. But I also think Ospina's gone as well. I literally think every other single player is on our books in some sort of fashion, whether they're on a loan somewhere or still with us. I just don't see us shipping a lot of people out, sadly.
Yeah, I would say that holding El Nene and probably Iwobi are the ones that are staying with the club next season, and the rest a lot of them need to go out on loan deals. A lot of those youngsters, especially, are all kind of Championship, lower league, Premier League kind of level, and they really need to go out there and really understand that rough and tumble. But because we had the Europa League group stage, I think we've had to keep hold just for numbers rather than anything and bodies in there that can do a job. And we'll see next season, once those guys are out on loan, that they'll be ripping it up. I have to say a positive from one of our loan players. Did you see Steffi Mavidi's goal for Charlton in the FA Cup?
Yeah, I did. Very good goal.
Yeah, really. We should bring him back. Nice. But yeah, another question we've got as well. Let's go from Arsenic Gunner. Is the Arsenal coaching the biggest scam around? John, bit of positivity. Are they the biggest scam, or can you think of a bigger one involving Nigerian uncles?
Look, there's clearly issues with our coaching at the club. I think the lack of development of certain players is worrying. That's not always a coaching issue, because when you see them play at international level, they seem to play fine. So the ability's there, the technique's there. So I think a lot of it comes down to the system we play and the position they play in. Iwobi is an example of a player who I think at the moment is very low on confidence. He's playing badly. He's doing great, but majority of the time he's playing out of position, and they're not playing a style of football that particularly suits him. I don't think he's necessarily going to get at Arsenal whilst Mesut Ozil's there. So if Ozil does end up signing a contract, maybe Iwobi does need a loan. I don't know. Maybe he needs to shed some weight. Walcott is a player who the manager had so much faith in for a long time, but then, he only got, then he's kind of disregarded and thrown to one side. And there's this weird thing where Arsenal has an obsession with a certain player and does it for a long time, and you can see there's real skill and abilities and stuff there, but then he kind of burns them out a little bit. So I think defensively we definitely need work. Our shape off the ball is not good enough. That needs huge work. And I think also we need a slightly more rigid style, even when we do have the ball. Not in terms of like being defensive or we need a set structure, but the players need more clear instruction, I think, when they have the ball as well sometimes, because certain players you think, well, you're good enough, you can take on a player, but they don't do it. So they come back inside and they slow things down, and the pace of the game isn't there. And our games are often dictated by if Mesut Ozil or Alexis Sanchez wants to speed them up at the moment, rather than players being told this is what you should do against this opposition. So I think that's where we struggle. But I still think you do have to give Arsene some credit, because, him and the coaching staff there develop great talents. Like Jack Wilshere is a really good success story for Arsenal. Had all those injuries, he's come back as well. So there are positives. And also you look at the young kids coming through now, Maitland-Niles is a wonderful talent, and there's not a lot of managers that would let him play in the team. In a Premier League team, and cup runs and stuff, and Reece Nelson as well. So there are some good things, but yeah, clearly defensively is the big one. But I think it's just us off the ball. Like a shape off the ball is just terrible.
Yeah, I think it's not great. I think we've been saying it all season, but the gaps are getting so big now that it's plain for everyone to see. I think we've got a couple more questions before we wrap up. Jay's question coming over to you from AD. With a better manager, do you think this squad is capable of even top four?
I think from front to back, talent-wise, yes, we are. I think we've got a lot of good talent in the team. I even think that Alexis Sanchez is a good talent. Obviously, he's got his faults, but I think we all know what he can do there. You got Mesut Ozil, you got Alexander Lacazette. I don't think in the right position our defense is even that terrible. We've got some really good individual defensive players. We just have to utilize them in the correct way. I think if we had a manager who utilized what we had to their strengths, instead of trying to sort of shoehorn them into a certain system like it feels like we are now, that I think we would probably be seeing better results and more consistency.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem we've got. What do you reckon with the current manager, though? Do you think we could still sneak into top four? I mean, Liverpool have just lost one of their biggest assets, so they're not scoring any goals from further out than 40 yards.
Well, I do think he can get us there. I do feel like we would have to have a lot of help from those around us. I don't feel like we could just get it based off of just our form and what he can get out of the players anymore. No, I think we would have to. It would be dependent upon other teams failing, going through tough stretches, Liverpool overspending for every player, and those players not performing. Tottenham having a collapse. I think it would be more dependent upon external factors than it would be just on us. Whereas I feel like if we had another manager who utilized our players differently, it really wouldn't matter as much what the other teams around us were doing. It would matter more our consistency, which we just haven't had, and that's been our big issue. I feel like we could get it with this manager. Don't get me wrong. We have the talent still. It's just we're not utilizing the talent right. So what makes me think that that we could do it on our own? We would definitely need to have help from those around us.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I think I can only see a couple of teams dropping out from that list that we've got there. Just one last question, I think we've got from Lee Tatlock. We'll come over to you, John. I know this has occurred for the national team, but will we ever play with two up top with Giroud and Lacazette?
Say yes.
Yes, we will, but it will only be in the last 15 minutes of games. I do not see us starting any game like that anytime soon. Arsenal likes his one up top. I think whenever Lacazette plays, it's going to be generally in the league, which means Mesut Ozil's playing. Alexis Sanchez is most likely to play. We kind of played a little bit of a 4-4-2 the other day, actually. The Chelsea game, at times, Alexis was playing as a second striker. So I don't see it happening. If anything, the record of subbing off Lacazette might mean that we might not get to see it, and we might be more likely to see Alexis and Giroud play up top as a two for like 15 minutes of the game. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to see it starting a game. Maybe like late on in the game if we're chasing.
But it might not necessarily be in a 4-4-2. I think just two up top could have five in midfield and three at the back, which is probably the most likely system.
That kind of thing, like a 3-5-2 or a 4-3-3, and Lacazette maybe plays wide or something like that. But I don't think you're ever going to see two actual strikers up top unless we are really like if we got to the League Cup or Europa League final and we were really chasing the game, last 5 minutes or whatever, then maybe Arsene goes, 4-4-2, Lacazette, Giroud, Alexis one side, Ozil the other, and, Ramsey and Jack in the middle or something, and really goes for it because there's nothing else to play for. It's the final. That's the only time you're going to see it. But you're never going to see it at the start of the game. I don't think. It's just not the way Arsene likes to play.
No, I don't think we'll see it either. Jace, do you think we'll see it? Mm-hmm. Two up top?
No, just not. It would have to be like what John said. Yeah. Does bring back fond memories of Sonogo though against Bayern Munich at the end and in the FA Cup final.
Yeah,
our little mailman coming on at the end of games
and delivering.
Yes. He was so poor. He actually created a lot of good chances for Bayern Munich because they had no clue how to defend him.
Yeah, the chaos problem is excellent.
Yeah.
We used to do that with Theo Walcott, but oh well.
John's still shaking his head in here.
Okay, so we'll go with the final question that we got, and that was from Everything Rude Everything, which is probably on the most pertinent thing that we really want to talk about today. Panthers or Saints? Jace, I assume you're going with Panthers. John?
Panthers 31-28. Panthers pull it out.
Saints. I couldn't find my Saints hoodie, so I just got my little Saints helmet. There you go. Drew Brees, best quarterback.
Watch for almost no defense in this game at all. It's just going to be end to end.
As I said, I've only watched them twice and they lost both times, so they're bound to lose tonight as well.
So on that basis, I'm going to go with the Panthers. I'm still busy from the Rams getting knocked out yesterday.
John's always the Jonah.
Yep, I am always the Jonah. Although Josh was host today, so there you go. It's spreading, mate. I'm infecting everyone.
Perhaps it's something to do with the championship and my allegiances elsewhere. It's done it. Okay, I can't host championship games. Okay, end off. So if you get relegated, I'm leaving. Right, and on that note, big thanks to everyone in the chat box. You've been insane as always. Thanks to my guests as well, John and Jace.
Thanks, Josh, for hosting.
Yep, thank you.
It's all right. We've been a Burkout Wonderland. We have unfortunately been the Arsenal, but, you know, things can only get better.